Hey MGTOWs, this is Vention. Pardon my greasy and ugly appearance. It's my Saturday, but I took a couple hours to replace the brake pads in my car. I want to keep that thing nursed along until I can do that whole Bitcoin retired thing. And speaking of Bitcoins, I was just looking at this. Basically, we have a lot of people who are hoping to make gains and maybe make up for lost time, or maybe to get gains quickly, much more quickly than Bitcoin probably would. And then they bought, up into this bull market or this big, huge bubble. And then, and then when it pulled back, altcoins, anything other than Bitcoin except for maybe the stable coins, which might go to zero, who knows. But any of these coins, they almost universally go down dramatically more than Bitcoin. For example, if you measure it from the very all-time high, I am down like 60% or something. But it sounds a lot worse than it really is. But back to what I was saying about altcoins. Those people, some of those altcoin people are down 70, 80, 90%, and it's like, and then of course in a couple of them like BitConnect, they're down 100%. And oh man, that's brutal. But I just wanted to, there are people out there who have like tremendous brain power, just like they are as good with things like trading, as I am with machines. And I know for a fact that I am not that good with trading. I've tried it before, and eventually I just got sick of losing money. I lost money in the dot-com crash. I lost money in, I think I had a little something in the 2000. No, I didn't. No, I was all in silver then. And then I lost money in Cryptsy, but I limited my losses to one Bitcoin, which was like $500 back then. But if I hadn't have done that, I'd have another Bitcoin, and that's like $6,400 right now. So, well, it was a good lesson learned. If you're not good at something, and you just don't have the temperament for it, which I don't, some kind of alternative should be sought after, and for me, that is dollar cost averaging. If you'll look at at this chart, this is just Bitcoin wisdom. It's what a lot of old timers use. Anyway, you can see I started buying back here in late 2013 when we were coming off of the big 2013 bubble. And my first Bitcoins I bought at $900 each. And I bought like a half a Bitcoin. And then I just kept buying slowly but surely, not anywhere near what I can buy now that the mortgage is paid off. But I was buying steadily, pretty much every paycheck, because I see the potential of this. It looked to me, and it still does, like Bitcoin could serve as a backup to the conventional financial system. If we had like another big, huge 2008 meltdown where the banks refused to lend money to each other or transfer money to each other, and then the whole system froze up, and then the feds had to like create insane amounts of money to free up the system again. And if that occurs now, everything would come to a stop, and who knows what effect all that printing would do. It might like massively reduce the value of the dollar, and might do a number of things. But those people who hold Bitcoin will still be able to transact. And if people can't use dollars, or dollars aren't as valuable, or in certain situations, you would be surprised at how fast like cell phone companies would change their billing so that you can buy with Bitcoins. And even now, I could always go to Bitrefill and pay my cell phone with Bitcoins in that way. Of course, they'd probably turn around and pay the cellular company in dollars. So if the dollars froze up, I'm not sure what the heck would go on. We'd figure something out though, but Bitcoin would be an nice additional option. But in any case, if you buy the market, what it tends to do, from what I've observed, I'm a diesel mechanic, not a financial expert, by the way, but this is what I've observed. Bitcoins have a tendency to just go absolutely ballistic with price periodically, like maybe every other year or every 18 months. And then they come crashing down over a period of months. But when they do bottom out, they don't ever seem to go back to the original price before the big bubble. For example, in this case, the majority of the year, 2016, well, maybe half the year of 2016 was about $1,000 or $1,100. And we had a few pumps and pullbacks, but nothing that's like tremendous like what we get every other year or so. But anyway, the price just shot up to 19,000 and then it crashed. But when it crashed, it didn't pull back down to like 1,100, 2,000, whatever. It pulled back to about halfway down to 6,000. And that appears to be the bottom. I called the bottom a couple weeks ago. I am of the opinion that we're not going to be going below 6,000 or maybe 5,800 again. Probably not ever. So basically, since I buy every month, just like clockwork, and I don't dump an insane amount of money in. For example, when I sold my condo, if I could have told the future, I could have bought Bitcoins with that, but I can't tell the future. So what I'm willing to risk on Bitcoins is maybe the majority of my surplus income every month. So that does add up after a while, but it's not a gigantic sum like what I got for selling the condo. So basically I buy every month, and you can see over the long haul with these pumps and pullbacks, the price never appears to drop down to the original price after the big huge pump. It just drops about maybe halfway, and then like goes level for trading sideways for like a certain number of months or maybe even a year, and then you get the next big huge pump, right? So I've seen this before, twice before actually. For example, let me see if I can get a better view of this. Oh, back to 3 days. Okay. Okay, this is 2015 right here. And this is 2013, and that's when I started buying Bitcoins. Right at the full pump, right? and basically the price started coming down, but I am so impressed with the potential of Bitcoins that I just every month, every payday, I would just set aside a few $100s and I would buy some Bitcoins, even as the price dropped and dropped. And there were months that went by when my investment, even with my investment, at the end of that month, the whole hoard of Bitcoins had a lower valuation than it did at the beginning of the month, even with what I put in. But I kept at it. I mean, it made me sick, but I kept at it. And then basically right around here, at the end of about September-ish, we had something called the bear whale. That was like a whale, somebody who owns just an insane amounts of Bitcoins, and he just started selling Bitcoins, and he just was selling relentlessly, gigantic sell walls at a certain price, and then the price would just keep going down and down, and it was just absolutely irresistible. It was just relentless, and it just kept going down, and it took a lot of determination to keep buying at that point. And then finally, in January of 2015, they broke me. The massive year-long, disgusting, horrible, bleeding death of 2014 just made me nauseated, and I was so disgusted that in 2015, when it bottomed out to about $150 each, I didn't buy that month. I just said, fuck, screw you guys. And I was just sick to my stomach. And then after January, we moved into February or March. That's when I saw that the market had changed. It felt to me like we had bottomed. And that's when I made that video saying, I believe Bitcoins have bottomed. Anyway, then I just kept buying through 2015, not anywhere near what I can afford to buy now that the house is paid off. But I was buying steadily, several $100s a month, and I was starting to collect a pretty darn good stack of Bitcoins. But you can see in 2013, we had another one of these run-ups from like at the beginning of 2013, the price was like, I think $14. And then the price just shot up to like $259 with this giant vertical candle, and then just crashed down. But it never went back to the original pre-crash price. It pulled back to about 120 from 13, which is a damn good. This kind of price action is not going to be happening again, because Bitcoin is simply too big a market now. Although it's tiny compared to other markets, it's too big for ginormous, crazy, insane gains like this. We will be lucky, I'm thinking, going forward to get like maybe 10 times the current value, up to about 60,000 maybe next year. That's pretty much what I'm expecting. So it pumps up really big, and then it pulls back, and then bottoms out, but never as low as before the pump. And then it pumps again after a few months or a year or whatever, pumps to crazy heights again, and then pulls back again for a number of months or a year, and then basically bottoms out, and then the market is disgusted for a while, and you trade sideways, and then it starts coming back, and then eventually it pumps like crazy again. And that most recent pump is 19 grand, but that's just like the very, very top candle wick. Most of the big pump was not, basically it wasn't like that big. It was probably something like, let me see. Here we go. Yeah, it went up to about maybe maybe 4 days, it was at about 18,900 or so. But the most of that pump was right around 16 or 17,000. It spent like a couple weeks at that range before it started capitulating, and the Mt. Gox people were dumping massive amounts of money onto it, and it just changed the market sentiment. And then the whole thing started coming down. And now we appear to be gaining some market sentiment. I said that right around 5,800 or so we are bottoming out. But I could feel the market sentiment coming back. And it took a lot of coins from some like very old wallets, like 5 years old. Probably money that the government stole from the Silk Road people or something. And they used that apparently to short the market and then slam the market down, and probably on margin. And so that's caused some degree of pessimism, but basically two ginormous freaking dumps. These are not market forces. These are just large, giant whales just slamming the market down. That has nothing to do with market sentiment. And it's funny how the market's trading mostly sideways, kind of boring, and then slam! And it scared some people and started going down a little bit. Then they dumped another giant slam on it, and then we've got like trading sideways again. So, even amongst the traders, people who have their money in exchanges, even they don't appear to be that afraid. And of course, me, shit, I can't sell at all. I mean, it would take hours for me to go to the safe deposit box and cash in and pull those bitcoins off of the Trezor and transfer them to Coinbase and then attempt to liquidate them. And I'd have a limit of like 25,000, I think, a day or something before I could and it would take a long time to liquidate them all. So basically, it's just as well that that's the case, because I panic sold last year at $900 and $1,100 each. I panic sold enough to pay off the house. I regret doing it, I really do. But I gotta say, I mean, and if I hadn't have done it, I'd be Bitcoin retired by now. But I do admit that I sure enjoy having a paid off house, man. I have so much surplus income right now, it's just crazy. I live comfortably on about 35% of my mechanic wages, and man, there's nothing like it. It's just friggin' awesome. This is MGTOW heaven right here. So what I'm seeing, that I believe the market has pretty much bottomed out. I don't think it's going to like 4,000 like a lot of real bears are saying. So I'm just buying about $1,000 a paycheck worth of Bitcoin. I just yesterday transferred that 1,000 into the Abra wallet, and as soon as it comes in and hits my Abra wallet, I'll flip it over to Bitcoins and then dump it into cold storage and go on with my life. But my point here is that we are pretty much bottomed out, in my opinion. And as you can see, over the long haul, between 2013 and now, only a reasonably short amount of time has been spent above the current price. The vast majority of my purchases are like way down here, and I'm like sitting really well. I'm like way ahead. And only this short period of time here are my purchases what they call underwater. And I was buying some up here, but I think I throttled back because I was on vacation over in Cambodia, and so I didn't buy Bitcoins during that period of time. So that's just as well, but otherwise I probably would have. But the amount that I bought above the current price with the dollar cost averaging method is actually very, very small. Okay, there is also something I wanted to cover about Bitcoins and my regret of not getting into them back in 2013. I looked at Bitcoins back at 2012 and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I was like making a mental note to go get into Bitcoins. But I was procrastinating because I was so busy buying my house and getting my condo ready for a renter and day-to-day stuff that I just wasn't able to break off enough time to get into Bitcoins. And then the price I wasn't paying attention to this $250 pump, but when it hit $1,100, I was I was in grief. I'm almost thinking that I might have gone a little bit crazy because I felt like I had missed the boat, and I was like totally screwed from then on. I I was like looking at the price 1,100, and I realized I did the math of just what a few $1,000s worth would have bought me of Bitcoin back if I had gotten into it when I wanted to get into it, like back in 2012 when it was like $7 or $8 each, right? And and it just made me physically ill, and I was just in grief, and I couldn't deal with it. What I'm going to describe is I think I was, for a time, I was mentally, not necessarily mentally ill, but I was mentally injured because I was looking at the price and it was like it could have changed my whole life. And part of my mind broke away from, I've got a really good imagination, which can be good or bad. Good with machines, I can mentally see everything in the engine, right? Or in the truck, and basically part of my mind was broken away from reality and was creating a world where I had made the correct choice. And the rest of my mind was attempting to go live in that world. And it was starting to really drain my attention on the main real world and my day-to-day business of living and my job, and I was like starting to lose like concentration on everything because part of that, much of my experience, much of my processing power, I guess you could say, was in that other world, like traveling to permaculture sites and learning permaculture, and going to Australia and learning permaculture from Jeff Lawton, the Duke of or the King of permaculture, and working on projects, and and less and less of my attention was being focused on the day-to-day aspect of living, and I found myself just sitting, like at the end of work day. I mean, at the end of work, I'd come home, get something to eat, and I would just sit, and I would be living in this other world, and it was just, and then finally, after a couple of maybe 4 or 5 days or a week of that, I realized I was in trouble. And I had to, because it's possible if I had gone a little bit further, I might have come to and looked around and found myself in a straitjacket in a padded cell or something. and basically that's what happens when you just lose your grip on reality and try to live in another world. And I actually was apparently trying to do that, and it took a lot of effort. Once I realized I was in trouble, it took a lot of effort to wrench my attention and my thoughts, and because my thoughts would keep drifting back there if I just relaxed, right? And it took constant effort to just rip myself back to reality and focus on what I'm doing in my actual real life. and it was, I guess what they could call that, I think they could call that a psychotic break. I didn't actually break, but I certainly bent a little bit. So I was in real danger because I was just so grief stricken, and because I felt like I had just missed it, and it was something I could never fix and never address, never ever repair. something an opportunity that was lost for all time, and the rest of my life would just be, turning wrenches, which isn't bad, and just, waiting to die. But then I managed to rip my mind back to reality, and I sighed with just like profound regret. It felt like I lost a loved one or something. And then I rolled up my sleeves and tried to put something together, tried to salvage something from the disaster of not making the correct decision. And then I basically just rolled up my sleeves and went to work and started throttling my spending back as much as I could, and dumping whatever I could swing into Bitcoin. And even though the bear market was still coming down, I knew I didn't know enough about the cycles to really predict when this thing would bottom out, or just start accumulating cash while the thing was coming down and down. Instead, I just bought every paycheck and just kept going with it. And only at the end of 2014 did they break me with that constant, horrible, bleeding death of the market, down to $150, $160 or so. And I was so disgusted I didn't buy in January. I probably should have now. Hindsight is 2020. I should have bought then. But anyway, so I just kept buying. So what I'm trying to say is that people, in my opinion, who get into Bitcoin at the current price of, say, the current price of around 6,400 or so, I believe they will start enjoying the sideways trading for a while, and then I'm thinking we'll start to see some gains. But right now, when everybody's really negative about the market and everybody's moaning and complaining about manipulation and how the market sucks right now, basically the negativity is a real signal that now is a good time to be socking away some of these Bitcoins for your own future use. So that's what I'm trying to say. So in closing, I just wanted to as an overview, what I wanted to cover was these prices. They pump, and then when they pulled back, they never go back to the original pre-pump price, or at least I haven't seen it yet. And those people who buy after the big huge pump, and once we're in the real doldrums after the pump, like hangover period, I guess, those people who just start buying every month will enjoy some nice gains over the long term. I think that the long term outlook for Bitcoin is just a tremendous thing. It's so many uses, so many things are built onto it. Lightning Network, and they're going to have atomic swaps pretty soon, and just more and more things. So that's what I just wanted to cover, and of course my unfortunate mental breakdown. So if you got into Bitcoin at like 20 grand or 19 grand, and you're feeling like you've missed the boat and you can never fix this again, I would just like to say courage, persistence, and determination, and you just got to be more stubborn than the market, more stubborn than the bears, and eventually the market will turn bullish again, and you'll be flying high. And the only thing I need to learn how to do is take some money off the table when it's high. I've never managed to be able to do that. So it's something worth thinking about. Okay, guys, that's about all I got for you, and don't get married.